Up Show with the Black Comic Lords. What's up, everybody?
What up?
What's up? What's up?
Wait, Rich, you look younger.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's a spring, we had a spring chicken.
We have a special guest tonight, everyone. First of all, what's up to everybody in the chat? Pericles Dragon Balls, Marwan Williams. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Is anybody streaming this on the other channels? On the other, no one's service. I'll work on that. Anyway, listen. Like this video, because I'm always terrible at this. Like this video if you're watching. And if you dig what we're doing, subscribe to our channel, especially the newer people. It helps our algorithm. It helps us to spread the word and get our name out there and keep bringing dope content like this for y'all, such as what we have tonight. There was a big announcement last week about Diamond Publishing going out of business. Well, bankruptcy. It's not really the same thing, but basically the same thing. So we have a special guest with us tonight, Mr. Troy Allen. How are you, sir?
I'm good, man. I'm doing all right. I got a 5-month-old in this house right now, and my brain's a little tired, but I'm trying.
Well, tell the people who you are and what you're going to talk to us about tonight.
If you don't know by now, you better know. No, my name is Troy Jeffrey Allen. I've been watching a lot of pro wrestling. Sorry, so everything's coming out like a promo lately.
Where's your belt, man? Where's your belt?
Right. Oh no, I'm gonna get a Money in the Bank briefcase. I was talking about that earlier today. Everybody's gonna be on notice. That's what's gonna happen. My name's Troy Jeffrey Allen. Before we get to the diamond stuff, I've been doing independent comics for about 16 years, making them for myself and my friends, making them with my friends. But I did transition over into making a few licensed comics about licensed properties like the Wu-Tang Clan, Old Dirty Bastard, Local Ruckus in the City, and also Chuck D's Apocalypse 91. Probably the most popular thing. Yeah, that was me. I did the intro story. Probably the most popular thing I've done at this point has been an MF Doom tribute comic that came out in 2021. I've done quite a few things, but I'm really excited about Afro Futures. As you can see, it's right here. We successfully funded on Kickstarter thanks to shows like the Black Comics Lore for spreading the word. And so there you go. I'm excited for people to see this because can we curse on here?
Not for the first 10 minutes.
Not for the first 2 minutes. Okay, so I'll say
first 10 minutes, then you can go PG-13.
Got you. Then YouTube just forgets about it.
I reserve the right to keep the F-bomb to myself, the singular.
Okay. All right. There you go. Respect. Well, I will just say the book looks amazing. I just did a run through. I'll probably share it with some of the people on the show actually, if you guys want to see what I have so far. It looks amazing. It looks wild. Yeah, it looks wild. And I'm a firm believer that comic books should be crazy and comic books should do things that movies and television should not be able to do. And so this book is nuts. And it's coming from me, but it's also coming from a collection of artists and writers, all Black. And we're just here to show out, and we're here to just let our imaginations flex. So, yeah, if you're interested in that, go to rexco-comics.com and check it out. Yeah, thank you, man. Who was that who said, can't wait till my copy arrives? I saw somebody say that. Thank you very much. Style So Serious. Thank you very much for pre-ordering. And if you missed the Kickstarter, you can pre-order on our website now. So,
yeah, and I guess my two-point comments about it is if you want to see a retelling of all Negro comics, at least some of the characters, or if you like Josephine Baker and hearing some dope stuff about Josephine Baker, check it out because some of the content that's in there.
Yeah, it's reimagining our Black past, Black futures, Black present, in bold and crazy ways. So yeah, definitely check it out if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah. All right. So, but tonight's topic is Diamond. Yeah. So, Troy, could you tell us a little bit about your background and experience with Diamond?
I'm sorry, repeat that last part.
Could you tell us something about your background and experience with Diamond?
Yeah, so I was a consumer marketing manager at Diamond for 5 years. Prior to that, I was a digital marketing specialist for 4, so a total of 9 years at that company.
Mm-hmm.
And I produced and hosted video content. I worked on brand strategy. I ran previewsworld.com, which is an extension of the Previews catalog, which has been a fixture in comic shops for a very long time. I ran Comic Shop Locator. I ran Free Comic Book Day, although I have to give a shout out to Ashton Greenwood because she was very clutch and she has become she became ultimately the spokesperson for that event. I've worked with every nerd company imaginable because of my time at Diamond. I've worked with Marvel, I've worked with Viz, I've worked with Hasbro, Funko, Super 7, DC Comics, all to market their product because, of course, all these companies go through Previews catalog and go through Diamond for distribution, right? And that's toys, that's comics.
Diamond does own previews. They
Diamond
own
owns Previews. They own Previews and they own Free Comic Book Day. Yes.
Well,
Oh,
okay.
wow.
Yeah.
That's a good nugget to know.
Yeah. I managed a comic book store for about 6 years. Prior to that, like way early in my college days. I've made indie comics, as I've mentioned. Yeah, and so that's my background. I've been able to interview some great creators and everybody. I did a Black Panther retrospective where I basically covered 6 decades of artists and writers and interviewed them. I've gotten to hang out with Todd McFarlane and Rob Liefeld, Dennis Cohen, like everybody, and it's been I got to drink with Garth Ennis, so
Mm-hmm.
it's been a great experience for a big old nerd like myself.
Okay, so you have given us a lot of qualifications, and it sounds like
Right.
not only can you talk specifically about maybe the situation that Diamond announced, they're in last week, but maybe if you could just take a step back and just help put everything into context, because you've already talked about a lot of the things that Diamond has been behind and the role that it's played
Yeah.
in general in the comics market. But could you just maybe for people who maybe buy a lot of comics but don't know much or haven't paid too much attention to how the market is structured and how the distribution works, could you talk a little bit about that just for context first?
Yeah. So just a little bit of comic book history. For the longest time, comic books were sold through newsstands, right? Now, if you're above a certain age, you're probably like, "What is a newsstand?" Right? But they used to be that you could buy newspapers, magazines on street corners, or there would be designated stores, and you could buy comic books from there.
Back in the olden time days,
Right.
aka my youth.
Right.
Yes.
And also some of my youth too. I remember going to Union Station here in DC and buying comic books from newsstands in the 90s. And so what happened was ultimately newsstands ultimately that model fell apart. It like died, right? And it seemed for a little bit the comic books would die with it. This was like about like I want to say the mid 70s. And what happened was around that time, comic shops had already started to pop up, and a distribution model was created for comic book stores. And ultimately, it saved comic books. And it saved some of your favorites. Like I'm talking about Marvel and DC characters. I'm talking about Batman and Superman. I'm talking about Archie. I'm talking about all those guys, right? And so it was a big boost for the industry, especially through the 80s into the 90s. But of course, as I think a lot of us know, by the late 90s, there was a bubble burst because the speculative market, everything crashed. Part of that crash was that Marvel decided that they were going to go into distribution. That did not work out. They almost went bankrupt. They went bankrupt in a process. And part of trying to pull everyone's fat out of the fire was that a lot of distribution companies went under, and Diamond was one of the few left standing. And so Diamond absorbed quite a few of those distribution companies, at least like one or two, the ones that were left. And so there's been a criticism for a long time of Diamond being a monopoly. I think some context is needed there. But basically by the time Diamond had absorbed all those other companies, this is by the 2000s. And so the last 25 years, Diamond has, well, I'll say actually for about 20 years, Diamond was the main distribution, or the premier distribution for Marvel and DC, Image, Dark Horse, et cetera, et cetera. So, and what I mean by distribution is, how do your comic books get to your comic book store, right? Or truthfully, also, Diamond didn't just do comic book stores. How do your comic books get to Amazon? How did they get to Target? How did they get to like all these different like avenues? It's through a distribution model, which is what Diamond does. They have warehouses in different parts of the country. Diamond serviced also outside the country. There was a company called Diamond UK that handled distribution overseas. They also did some stuff in Latin America as well, and Canada, of course. But yeah, their home base was America. So, and Baltimore, actually.
Okay, and that's the distribution side of it. But when you're talking about a lot of the things you've done, free comic day, a free comic book day, the Diamond previews, all that's part of the marketing side of it to increase awareness and drive campaigns for people to, have opportunities to learn more about books too. So not only is, they're huge in distribution, but also huge on the marketing side as well, right?
Yeah.
And another key thing you mentioned was, I guess you said, what kind of caused all this in the beginning for Diamond to become the sole, large key player in this was Marvel tried to vertically integrate into the distribution space and failed.
Right.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a combination of things, right? It was like I said, the speculative market had a massive collapse. And by speculative market, I probably don't need to explain this to you guys, but like a speculative market basically was the late 90s, tons of variant covers, tons of companies popping up, trying to get in on the big comic boom that had happened because of Spider-Man #1, X-Men #1, Spawn, et cetera, Wildcats, et cetera, et cetera. And there was, they oversaturated the market, and what happens when you oversaturate the market, the whole thing goes to crap. So it all just kind of collapsed on itself. Marvel, looking to maintain their business interests, attempted to set up a distribution model. The industry in itself kind of freaked out, I'll be honest with you, and ultimately never came to fruition. And so here we are.
All right. Hey, I want to take a moment out just to thank Henny God Slick. Thank you so much for your super chat. We appreciate you.
Donation. It's a donation. I thought it was the trash. Don't be hitting on me.
Thank you.
We do appreciate your super chats. Anybody else wants to give one, we will definitely accept them. And don't forget to like and subscribe.
We broke, y'all. We broke. Help a brother out.
Very.
So now there's a question that was asked, and even though it's a one-part question, to me it's a two-part question. Okay, is Free Comic Book Day over now with the end of Diamond? So part one is Free Comic Book Day over? But he's calling this the end of Diamond, and I don't know if this is the end of Diamond or not, because it sounds like Diamond is entering into bankruptcy, which allows you to have a chance to restructure, right? So for that reason, I'm going to present this as a two-part question. But is there anything you can answer about this question?
I mean, we'll have to see. Like, there's a couple things that can go down once you file for bankruptcy for Chapter 11. Restructuring is also corporatese, right? For, we're crossing our fingers and hoping things work out the way that we want them to, So we'll have to see. At the end of the day, Diamond owns the trademark for Free Comic Book Day. But the idea for Free Comic Book Day actually came from an individual store. And so there might be an opportunity to continue doing that tradition, the annual tradition in May. But it's, there's also nothing stopping comic stores from continuing to do this tradition. They just won't be able to, at least in this current model, or at least if Diamond goes under, they won't be receiving free comic books, quote unquote, free comic books from Diamond to do that event every year.
One of the interesting things, just for people's edification, Diamond, as he said, is it's going through bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is a restructuring of their corporate, structure to help a company survive, actually.
Yeah.
The purpose of bankruptcy is to actually see what can be done to keep a company together. But it's also, in doing that, they have to settle their debts. There was an article or post someone made asking, "Oh, well, I see that Marvel, or it was either Marvel or DC, filed something with the bankruptcy court, trying to buy Diamond now that it's going through bankruptcy," and that's probably not true. I think what's happened is that they have a financial interest in Diamond, usually due to some outstanding debt, and they are filing a lien.
Yeah.
Because when you have bankruptcy, all the creditors, everyone who owes money, who's owed money by the company going into bankruptcy, has to list their claim.
Yep.
And those claims are prioritized by the court. And the earlier you get in, the better chance you have of having your claim heard. If you get in too late, you may not end up getting anything because everything will be all the money will be passed out. So that's probably more accurate. I don't think anyone's trying to buy Diamond. I think people are lining up their what's owed them and trying to get their vig.
Well, so there's another layer to this, right? Which is that, like I mentioned, Diamond does a lot of things. They do comic books. It's called Diamond Comic Distribution, but with that, they have like a lot of nerd adjacent things that they also distribute, right? They distribute apparel, they distribute novels, magazines, toys, very much so toys and statues and collectibles, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's a very real possibility that what could happen is Diamond in its current form could stop distributing comics. And in the process, what's going to happen is they're going to sell the toys, collectibles, et cetera, to another company. And if that happens, Diamond will not exist as Diamond, the name Diamond probably will not exist, basically. There's also been an aggressive push these last 5 years, since the pandemic actually, by Penguin Random House. Now, here's the other thing that I think people should understand is that Penguin Random House is a major book distributor. And so what they've done in the last few years, since 2020, since the pandemic, is they scooped up Marvel, they scooped up Dark Horse, they scooped up Image, and then they outright bought Boom. So they own Boom Studios, who makes the Power Rangers comics now.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so they've basically taken distribution away from Diamond and have done distribution to comic shops through Penguin Random House. DC during the pandemic went to Lunar Distribution, which is another distribution company. And I have a couple thoughts on that, but like Penguin Random House has been aggressively pursuing the comic book market. And so we will see where that goes in the future. Will Penguin Random House buy up what's left of Diamond? Potentially. But I think there's a bigger risk here is that they have all the toys that they already want. And so what's going to happen is that a lot of these smaller publishers that are still at Diamond at the moment are going to have to fend for themselves. And so they're going to have to come up. They're either going to have to go to Lunar if Lunar accepts them, Penguin Random House if Penguin Random House accepts them, or they're going to have to find other means of distribution. And this is important because, especially for a show like Black Comic Lords, because a lot of these companies, several of these companies are Black-owned companies, right? And so you have places like Godhood, or Advent, or Second Sight. Actually, I don't think Second Sight's with them anymore. Or Stranger Comics. Who distribute through Diamond. And so, while I think Stranger Comics probably will be okay because they have an animated movie coming out, I think some of these other companies will have to scramble. So.
Yeah, to that point, yeah, I did see a post from Sebastian at Stranger Comics that was just talking about, what he sees and the impacts to him as a result of this. So he talked about the fact that I think there's, obviously there's some money that's owed to him that could be at risk. And now, he's got to figure out what to do as next steps in terms of, continued distribution, through the comic shops, So, and this question on screen is getting to that point,
Yes.
Are independent creators affected the most by Diamond's bankruptcy?
I would think so.
Well, I mean, like specifically independent. You know, and independent is such a loose word now, right? But specifically, independent. Oh, I'll put it like this: companies that don't have shareholders, right? Like those companies are at risk right now because those companies are smaller companies that probably have some storage facility where they keep all their stock, you know, and so they rely on Diamond to get to a larger comic book market so that they're not just peddling their books at conventions. You know what I mean? And so there's a very real possibility that Diamond can go bankrupt. They'll hopefully settle their debts with these publishers, but that is a real fear for a lot of these publishers right now, is that they won't see their money. And some of them have told me that the Diamond owes them money right now. So that's a real thing.
Okay. And another comment: if Diamond is sold, that'll be the biggest bidding war ever against Disney and Discovery.
Maybe. I mean, potentially.
Yeah, I guess it depends if Disney and Discovery want to go. They want to get into that part of the business, you know, the distribution side of things.
You know, I think I legit think that, like, you know, Marvel attempted this. I want to point out that Marvel went bank. Marvel filed for the same thing in the late 90s. And so, you know, I don't think Disney is particularly interested in owning a distribution chain for comic book stores. I don't think Discovery is interested particularly in owning a distribution chain for comic book stores. I think the thing that we probably have to really consider here is that Penguin Random House might scoop up a handful of other publishers once if and when Diamond ceases to exist. And there's a very real possibility that some other entity of interest will take over the rest of Diamond. Was that?
I think Jeff Bezos is going to do it.
Jeff Bezos. I mean, that would be interesting. That also would be interesting. But, you know, I think that's another interesting part of this is that, you know, people like to say monopoly a lot when it comes to Diamond, but you really got to understand there are other distribution avenues for comic books. Amazon is one of them. And I'm not just talking about Comixology, all that is one distribution outlet. But I'm also talking about just Amazon, like the place you can order, like, you know, the original purpose of Amazon, which is to order books, right?
Yeah.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I like Styles so serious idea. Byron Allen.
Byron Allen. Oh, that's hilarious.
All right. Now, we've been building up a few super chats in the backlog. So I just want to get to them. Maybe not play a video for each of them, but I'll do one for the combination of them. So first of all, Marwan Williams, not broke on my watch. Hey, we do appreciate you so much.
Thank you,
Marwan.
Thank you.
One of our very dedicated regulars. Same thing for L-Dog. Paul, here's a compliment to you. There goes. If else from bankruptcy, he's coming to you. All right. Tell me how that works. Tell me how that works out, L-Dog.
not my area of specialty, but I'll certainly push in the right direction.
Yeah. And in Tron World, good to have you again. It pays to have a friend in Penguin right about now. So for all of you, I want to thank you with this super chat. Oh, where'd it go? Okay, so there's another. Yep. Okay, so there's another question, and I'll read this, and then I just want to recap one thing you said, and then get your answer to this. Okay, so good evening, people. Worst case scenario: if Diamond goes under, what will happen? Will this be the end of the world for comic book stores and other chains? So now I wanted to complete this list I was writing as you started talking. So Penguin Random House owns Boom right now, and they're also handling the distribution for Marvel and Image and what other major companies?
Dark Horse Comics.
Dark Horse, okay.
Yeah. Now, I should also point out that they are, I would say they're the main distributor, Penguin Random House is, but there are other distributors like Universal that I think do Image for wholesale, which basically is like you can get like a bundle of trade paperbacks from them, You know what I mean?
Okay.
Which is what
Yeah. So
Diamond ended up doing when Image left Diamond, like just I want to say 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
okay. And you said
Mhm.
Lunar had DC. Is there anybody else
Yeah.
that's going through Lunar?
Yeah, there's several. I don't want to say smaller, but there's several smaller companies that are going through Lunar right now as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. And then we had Diamond as well.
hmm
So within that context,
hmm
how would you answer this question?
I mean, that's also a very real fear. I had a guy in my comment section like not too long ago saying that this is what the industry deserves for catering to 40-year-old men, right? Like
Oh.
that's an ongoing argument all the time, right? And I had to remind him, like, hey man, like, people work here. Like, that's a big part of it. I should point out I don't work for Diamond anymore. I should also point that out. People work at that company. But also the industry has been trying to find ways to get other demographics into comic book stores, right? And to some success, to moderate success, there's been some major blips here and there, of course. And then there's been monster hits like Dogman, and stuff like that, right? But at the end of the day, uh, the fear here is that audience isn't going to be serviced anymore, and then therefore comic shops might fold, especially if, and I just saw this today, companies like Image shift the discounts that retailers get, which has actually happened already. And so, like, there are definitely margins that a lot of these stores get. A lot of stores buy these comics at a certain percentage to sell at cover price, right? So, like, for example, if I think the average comic's like $5, uh, the retailer buys it at $2.50, but the cover price is $5 so that they can make a profit, right? I just saw today that Image has decided that discount that the retailers get is going to change. And so, especially now, I mean, look, I'll be real with you. Donald Trump's in office. There's talks about tariffs going on. A lot of these comics come from Canada and overseas. There's a very real possibility. The economy is not great right now. There's a very real possibility that people aren't in the mood, aren't going to be in a position to do to buy things casually, right? To go to a comic book store and spend money on comic books. And so that can ultimately affect the number of stores in the country. It's already doing that, actually, to be honest with you. Like, already comic book stores have been closing for the last 5 years. The pandemic already took a major bite out of us in terms of like the number of stores around. So yeah, those discounts shift. That could be an issue. And it could also potentially affect the price of comics. Sorry, I jumped ahead. My bad.
Yeah, because that's perfect, because if the I don't know how the distributor can control what a comic shop is charging, right? So if they're gonna reduce the margin that a comic shop has, then the comic shop, could be left with the decision to actually increase prices.
So one thing the comic shops do is you got those variant covers, right? And this is the things that kind of keep comic book stores afloat. The variant covers don't have a set price, right? And so they get those variant covers, they can charge a little bit more or a lot more depending on how rare that variant cover is, right? And so the price of that stuff actually helps keep some stores lights on, to be honest with you. But the other part of it is that, yeah, like the distribution arm is only when it comes to the stuff that's regularly pre-ordered or regularly ordered by comic shops. The distribution only sets the discount that these stores get, but not the cover price. So if Penguin Random House decides that they're not seeing the amount of money that they want to see from these comic books every month, they could require that Marvel and Marvel and Image and Boom and et cetera, raise the price of comics. Which again, look, one of the things I agree with Alan Moore. Comic books are disposable entertainment, and they should be disposable entertainment. I think that's one of the charms of the comic books, is that, you know, you can just casually pick up one and read one. At least you should be able to. But the minute that you price yourself out of that, they're not disposable entertainment anymore. It's an investment, you know?
Yep.
And so that can become an issue for consumers as well.
Yeah, I mean,
so I just
part of
go
what
on.
makes, as you mentioned, the majority of comic book buyers now are middle-aged men. And that's a factor of the age in which you grew up and got interested in comics, and also very much so your financial aspect of your life. You have the disposable income to afford comics on a floppy level.
Right.
Manga is tremendously popular, I think, because it's a lot cheaper, because you get more book for your buck with manga. And so, you know, it may be that comics as we know it, and we've talked this conversation all the time about the future of comics, but it may be that there may be a shift in what comic books are going to be in the future, whether it be digital or whether it's going to go more of the graphic novel route. You know, you look at someone like Young Ripper and Ripperverse with his ISOM #1. He didn't do it as a floppy. He did it as a straight graphic novel with, you know, a huge page count. It costs more money, but you got more book for your buck. That model seemed to work for him. So, I mean, I don't know. When you think about the printing cost and, you know, printing more to drop your price down and getting people to be more invested in an entire story rather than doing a floppy, getting a part of a story. And honestly, you know, we have a lot more choices now in comics than we did 30, 40 years ago. So it may be that the model of doing floppies may be coming to an end at some point. That's just, you know.
I mean, I can see a future where Penguin Random House, you know, again, like, is just looking at the return on investment, and I mean, they already are a company that specializes in paperbacks, trade paperbacks, right? So they could look at this and be like, I mean, you know, truthfully, I think this is just my speculation, but I think that when well, first of all, when Dan DiDio got boxed out of DC, I'll say, right? And Discovery, I'm sorry, AT&T got involved, and then Discovery, you notice that DC was so proud of their 52 line of books, right? And I'm not talking about the new 52 or anything like that, just talking about 52 books, right? Like, that was their whole thing, is like, we're going to put out 52 books every single month. That's not the case anymore. And I'm sure someone at some point was looking at the return on investment and was like, why are we doing this? And, you know, I'm sure somebody was like, well, because Marvel does this, because that's really, that there's a big part of that. It's like, we just want shelf space, right? We want to be able to compete and make sure that our books are facing, many of our books are facing consumer as Marvel's books. And somebody was like, well, that's dumb. You know, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, all of a sudden, like, yeah, the game changes. That's a real thing. Personally, I think that's probably better for for retailers. I think it's better for consumers. I think it's better for the publisher. But yeah, that's a very real possibility that, like, every aspect of this could change pretty drastically in a couple of years.
So there's a lot more really good comments. So I'm kind of go rapid fire because they're really hitting on a lot of key points. So the first one, way back in the beginning of the show, frustrated me. The point, bankruptcy is actually not bad. Now they say they're closing shop, and that's a problem. So I think that's a fair point. Let's see. Next one. Okay, it's kind of a speculative question here. Wonder if the Free Comic Book Day books previously released become more speculative.
I mean, the way that something becomes speculative is it has to be rare, and so Diamond makes they print a lot of Free Comic Book Day books, so, you know, there's a very real possibility that probably not.
Okay. Another comment from Frustrated. Union Station was a hot spot. News shop was by the Amtrak waiting area. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, Amani asked this question. Do you think this will push comic book shops to move into the traditional book market?
To become just regular bookstores? Is that what you mean, Amani?
I think so. Maybe sell more regular books as opposed to floppies.
I think what's going to happen is not so. I mean, it's already happening. You guys remember Funkos, right? The
Mhm.
Funko Pops.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was trying to trying to stop the bleeding in a sort of way. Like, at the end of the day, again, the return on investment in comic books is not always the same. But like, if you have a major cultural phenomenon, a hybrid, yes. If you have a major cultural phenomenon like Funko, right? And the Funkos, you can get speculative with Funkos. Um, you know, if that means people are coming to your store, you start selling Funkos, right? Same thing
Mhm.
with manga. If that means people come in your stores, you start selling manga. And I've bumped into people like, oh, comic book stores don't sell this anymore, don't sell just comic books anymore. And it's like they can't afford to do that. The game has changed. So I don't even necessarily think that they're going to try to sell novels, although I guess some comic shops also sell novels. But like you're already kind of seeing that shift to like, okay, we're a comic book store, but we also sell, for example, we also sell Warhammer, we also sell Dungeons and Dragons, we also sell Settlers of Catan. Like, you know what I mean? We like
Mhm.
they got to diversify what the product that they have in their store. They have to.
Yeah.
Whatever you can do to get people into the store, so now they see everything that you have, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Okay. And I guess another question I have, and then we'll get back to some of the comments. So
Mm-hmm.
one trademark when we moved away from the newsstand model and we moved into the distributor model, uh, final order cutoff came into play as well,
Yes.
right?
Right. Right.
And it's good in some ways for comic book companies, the companies that produce comics, um, or I'm sorry, for the I guess for the bigger companies, because it tells them, it gives them a gauge of exactly how much they need to produce so they don't
Yeah.
overproduce.
Mm-hmm.
But for the smaller guys who don't have enough awareness in the market, it makes
Mm-hmm.
it challenging because not enough of their books get on the shelves. But can
Right.
you talk a little bit about that FOC model, and
Yeah.
in what ways, was it helping? And now as dynamics start to change right now, does
Mm-hmm.
that hurt things in some ways as well?
It's there's two sides to the FOC, right? And there's also another nefarious aspect to this as well. Um, so the reason, so when we start talking about FOC, you're talking about final order cutoff, right? And
Hmm.
so the idea here is that, like with newsstands, what they used to do before comic shops showed up, came into play, was that comic shops, I'm sorry, newsstands would have a certain amount sent to them, and then they would actually rip the covers off and send them back to the distributor. So if you've ever heard, like, if you ever come across a comic book with a ripped up cover, or seen a ripped cover on eBay of a very rare comic book and purchased it, I'm guilty of that, right? Like that's because that was the model, right? Like that was how it worked. But it was also killing companies, and it was also hurting a lot of newsstands as well, which also ultimately contributed to the death of the newsstand as well. And so, final order cutoff was this concept that was made to kind of uh, to fix that situation, which is that, all right, yeah, you send uh, the comic shop takes pre-orders. Pre-orders are very important to your comic book shop. I got to point that out always. Your comic shop takes pre-orders, and now they know how many they can move in a month, or maybe like maybe about 2 or 3 months, right? And so that's their margin. Um, and the thing about that is, this is where the variant covers and the predatory nature of the variant covers comes into play.
Hmm.
Right, I'm gonna put
Yep.
you guys onto some game. Right. So I'm gonna use Marvel as an example. All right, I'm just gonna use Marvel example. Um, so with variant covers, they say for every 50 you order. All right, so I'm just gonna use this. Do I have any? All right, I'm just gonna use visual aids, right? Because sometimes it's not even the same damn book, right? So for every 50 you order, right, of Batman and Robin, you'll get one extra copy of Green Lantern, right? And so I like Grant Morrison. Sorry. And so that one copy of Green Lantern is the thing that the retailer really wants, because they know that for every 50 copies of that one book, they can get for every 50 copies of that Batman and Robin, they can get one copy of Green Lantern, right? And so that means that, truthfully, I can flip Green Lantern on eBay for $50, right? And it gets even crazier when you get to those variants that are 1 in 100, 1 in 200, 1 in 300, et cetera, right? That's when you start getting the Stanley Art Germ covers and all that other stuff that's really hot, the Peach Momoko covers and stuff like that. Because now I can charge $200, put it behind the register or put it on eBay and just watch the money just pile up. Now, the problem with that is, and this actually used to frustrate me when I was working at my comic book shop as a manager. The problem with that is now, this is a great book, so I don't want to knock it, but now I have 300 copies of Batman and Robin #1 that I can't move, right? And the publishers have been doing that for a few years now, and that kind of screws up. It's doing the same amount of damage that was done to newsstands before the final order cutoff. Now I will say that it's up for the retailer to not fall for these tricks, but again, if I can sell a $200, if I'm selling $200 variants on eBay, that's kind of helping my business on a month-to-month basis, right? So, but the publishers know that as well. Marvel's not the only one that does that, of course. So, yeah, it's a tricky thing.
I guess it also it could potentially give some companies that maybe not be thinking it completely through a false idea of how much in general a given comic book series is going to sell, because your #1 is probably going to get more orders in general, and if you have some dope variants, then yeah, you get a lot more orders, and the speculation is going to give it an adder on top of it. But then when you get to the #2, #3, things drop, right?
You're right. Yeah. I mean, look, I'll be real with you guys. I'm sure we've all walked into a comic shop and been like, damn, they got a lot of these Ta-Nehisi Coates Black Panther #1s, and that's why. That's literally why. Because there was some variant, I don't know, and I can't think of which one, but there was some variant in that mix that was going to be very valuable, and stores leaned on that hard. So.
All right. So I'm going to continue with these questions from the chat here. Let's see. Okay. How did Penguin get the rights to do distribution for Dark Horse, Marvel, and Image?
So it's more of a contractual thing, and once the contract is up, they are open. Dark Horse, Marvel, and Image are have the option to shop around for distribution, and your competitors have the option to try to scoop up these companies. And so that's literally what happened. Their contracts are up. And, if you're following the news in terms of comics, each year another another comic book company left DC. Left Diamond to go to Penguin Random House. And that's because probably their contract was up that year.
All right. So there's your answer on that one. Yeah. Okay. Another one from Eclectic Blurty Niche, and a good one here. Kind of goes back to the pricing question and different ways that people can sell comics. So how come digital versions of physical comics aren't cheaper? Why they cost the same as the physical book?
Well, yeah. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. That wasn't my experience.
Well, I mean, again, it's return on investment. It depends on what digital comics you're talking about, because, I know Marvel did the Infinite comics, and I know those are I think $1.99 or something like that, and those are released only digitally. But yeah, it boils down to return on investment. If I'm a company like DC or Marvel or Image or whoever, and I know that this book is going to be dropping in stores at $3.99. And I want to make sure that I'm, again, getting that return on investment, I'm going to also release it for $3.99 on the Comixology app or whatever. Should they be cheaper? Because there's a different distribution model. I shouldn't say there's no distribution. It's just a different distribution model. Should they be cheaper? Yes, they should be. I agree.
Another thing we kind of discuss sometimes is where comics are available now, because the main place you can get them is obviously you can order them online if you order them regularly. But if you're somebody who hasn't discovered comics yet, you have to kind of trip into a comic store generally in order to come across. And there are other places you can get them, but a comic shop is really the place. I guess in the discussions and the dealings that you had with Diamond, were there discussions about how to make comics easier to discover for those audiences who haven't discovered them yet, and where that might be?
So I would definitely say I had those conversations. You know what I mean? But there was I mentioned before I was a consumer marketing manager, and so my job was to make sure the consumer is aware of these comics, right? Of course, I don't dictate where you buy them, so there was such an emphasis on comic shops, right? And there's a couple of reasons for that. I'm just trying to give you like at least like a broad understanding of why things go the way that they do, right? Now, me personally, I remember going to 7-Eleven and getting comic books. I remember going to the liquor store and getting comic books. Like, you know what I mean? Like legit. Like, and I've joked about this before. I actually bought Mad Dog 2020 when I was like 13. It was and drank it riding my bike after I bought my comics from the spinner rack. So, and passed out in the backyard of my house. So that's a true story. But that was in the 90s, right? Why can't you get it at 7-Eleven? Why can't you get it at a, maybe not liquor store, but why can't you get it at the grocery store, right? And I really don't have a good answer for that. And I don't think Diamond ever had a good answer for that, to be real with you. The one that I've always heard is that ultimately Diamond was, and this isn't necessarily Diamond saying, this is just what other people have told me in and around the industry, is that Diamond was too scared to undercut the comic shops.
Okay.
And therefore they weren't going to move outside of that comfort zone. So when DC a few years ago, TikTok liquors, I'm sorry. Is somebody I guess Frustrated Fan Sports Show is from my area because he just name dropped a liquor store in Langley Park. I guess it used to be in Langley Park. The conversations I've heard was that they didn't want to undercut the retailers. And also if you talk to some retailers, they don't want to be undercut by Target. You know what I mean? Now here's the thing: when DC decided to try to put comic book stores in Target, right? There were retailers that complained about that. There were comic shops that complained about that. And ultimately the issue with that is that those comics got shoved on the right side of the checkout aisle with all the Yu-Gi-Oh cards, right? And then on top of that, they were put on their back. You know what I mean? So they weren't even in the magazine section, So there's a couple of issues where, it's like, how do you display them? Used to be give a store a spinner rack, and that's how they display them, right? There was an issue of, retailers worrying about getting undercut, the distributor worrying about getting undercut. But personally, I've always held the attitude that, like, look, man, like, I can't think of the saying right now, but like basically, raise all tides, right? Raise all ships, right? And
that's Seb says that all the time too.
Yeah,
Rising tide.
Rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
I was about to pull a George Bush and say, "Fool me again, can't get fooled again." But I was like, I'm not even gonna try. I'm just gonna say I can't remember this. And so I think that especially when comic book movies and TV shows and how big those were, like the last several years, like it's always been insane to me that like they haven't spread their distribution model wider. And I guarantee you that's what Penguin Random House is going to do. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
Because they don't have the loyalty to retailers that Diamond, to a fault, had.
Yeah, and now there's exactly. Okay. All right. A comment from Jay Wilkes. Major retailers like Big Lots and Macy's closing stores. He's talking about the economy being a major issue. and people cutting back. And even if we think back to the pandemic, we think about tough times, but the speculation market was extremely hot.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, when people were getting paid without going to work, people, able to do a lot more from home. Some people just quit their jobs altogether. And that speculation market is kind of gone now. And on top of that, people are having tough times with money. So yeah, any thoughts or comments on that?
I mean, yeah, I think these are all accurate. Like, you're seeing this also with movies. Where it's just like people are like, do I want to spend money on this? I gotta eat, I gotta get groceries, I gotta pay for gas, I gotta commute to work now. You know what I mean? And so it really does become a toss up between, and I mean it's also a value too of like how much entertainment you get out of something, which is actually why plug myself. Afro Futures is a magazine because I want you to get a lot of bang for your buck, right? But like, there's also this issue of, back in the day, like I used to be able to, and I mean, I was younger too, but like, a Chris Claremont comic would take you like 30 minutes to read, right?
Right.
Like, because he wrote so damn much, right?
Nine panel pages.
Right. Like he would tell you what Storm was doing while the artist was already showing you what Storm was doing, right? But it took you 30 minutes to read the book. Now, I can probably breeze through a comic in like 10 to 15 minutes. And so the value is not there, and a floppy, I should say. So the value isn't there. And I think that's also an issue. But, you got to balance, that gets back to like, well, how much does it cost to produce it and paper costs and paying the artist, et cetera, et cetera. And you get like a 25, 22 page comic that you just breeze right through.
Do you think some of that, having lighter content within the same number of pages, is some of that an economics game to get the ROI higher by lowering the investment they have to put into it?
It just occurred to me actually, and I remember hearing conversations about this a few years ago, but like it literally just occurred to me. I'm actually, I don't know if you guys can see this. That's my collection right there. I'm doing a lot of organizing right now. I'm trying to get that in there. But yeah, it occurred to me recently. I was like, damn, like there are actually less pages in these comics.
Yeah.
All right.
Like, and I know why that is. It's all about like the company saving money.
Yeah, it's about 10 pages less than they were 30 years ago.
Yep.
Yes.
And then also like Paul, you interviewed Joe Illidge just a few days ago, and you were remarking about how much denser he made the Shadow Cabinet comic, right?
Yeah, he went
took
to
you back to
he went to the old Bronze Age 9 panel page method to wedge in more story in the book, which honestly is the most honest way to do it.
Yeah.
I wish more creators did that, particularly in mainstream comics, because once they saw Jim Lee do these splash pages in the 90s, that became the norm. Everyone wants to do splash pages to take up a bunch of page count and reduce the amount of time spent on the story.
No, I mean the artists now aren't necessarily taught to do that. I mean, a lot of them are inspired by not comic books. I'll be real with you. Like a lot of them, like are inspired by video games or manga, which has less panels. You know what I mean, on per page, or movies, right? So yeah, they're just not taught that, which is actually something I was trying to get back to with Afro Futures, specifically the stories I was telling. Is like I wanted to like make sure that like I'm trying to pack a lot of story on every page. I want you to be able to come back to this, like
Good question here. Does today's audience have the stomach for a verbose Claremont book?
Man, these kids don't read. What you talking about?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, that's a real point that Paul just made up too. I mean, that's a valid argument.
Well, my experience with my kids is that they just aren't interested in the format of floppies. They'll read something that's longer that contains a full story, but why are you going to throw something at me where I'm going to have to wait? Remember, the same generation that is not watching episodic TV, one episode a week with a whole
Binge
bunch of commercials
watching
in between
everything,
while you're watching
yeah.
too, right?
That is
Yeah.
100% facts. I've been trying to get my daughter into comics for a while. I give her a lot. I got excited. I'm like, here's Nubia #1 or something like that, thinking she's gonna get all excited. Or here's Moon Girl #1, and she's like looking at it. She's like, "Where's the rest of it, Dad?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's like I read it in like 10, 15 minutes, but where's the rest of the story? And she literally stopped me and said, "Dad, I want to try to hand her one. I appreciate you trying to get me these comics. I love to read, but can you just get me those thick things? What do you call them? Trade paperbacks? Yes,
Trade
get me those.
paperbacks, yeah.
Get me the trade paperbacks that has the whole story in it. I don't want to have to wait a month to get the next issue." And I think that's how a lot of kids feel. They want to get the whole story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, then the other part is like with the trade paperbacks, right? Like if it's a Marvel or DC book, you're getting like 6 issues of a 38 issue story arc. You know what I
And
mean?
it's cheaper that way.
It's cheaper, right? But I mean, the flip side of that though is that like if you're catching it in real time, like, oh, this trade paperback came out in January, but this book is still coming out, you're probably gonna have to wait another 6 months, which is again, the attention span is gonna go away.
Right.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's happening too, because I'm guessing the big companies are using the sales of the the monthly comics to determine how far to take a story,
Yeah.
and they don't have a way to gauge the true interest in the story across the board from people who might just want to read the whole story at once, right?
Right. And the big two are hiring creators in 5 to 6 issue stints.
Yeah.
Because that's how much goes into a trade paperback. They don't want to go, they don't want to invest in, promising an open-ended contract with a creator, or say, we're going to give you 24 issues. I mean, unless your name is Jonathan Hickman or something like that, they're not going to do that. They'll give you 5 or 6 issues, see how it sells. If it doesn't sell and they got to close the book out, well, at least we got a storyline we can now pack into a trade paperback and make some of our money back. I like Amani's comments here, because I see a lot of stores do that now. A lot of comic book stores try to go into and really make themselves out to be more like bookstores and focus on trade paperbacks. There's a store here in Orlando that specifically they do like new issue floppies. They do not do back issues. Unless it's a new issue, you're not going to see a floppy in the store. Everything else is just all trade paperbacks or graphic novels.
I think it's really telling. I'm definitely a Hickman fan, right? And I think it's very telling that he came back and attempted to do this multi-year arc, right?
Yeah.
And I can speculate, but for whatever reason, he decided to walk away from it at some point in time and start doing one-shots.
Yeah.
I think that's very telling.
And what do you think is behind that? Do you think it's the pressure coming from the comic book company? Hey, you got to put something here to get the numbers up, as opposed to
I mean, did you read Ten of Swords? Because that was the jumping off point for me, man. I was like, this has nothing to do with anything. Like, and I apologize to anybody who enjoyed that story arc, but yeah, I think that factors into it. Is like, you're always going to see that slump. You mentioned like issue 1 is going to have that bump, and then you're going to see that decline at issue 2. That's a known fact. So imagine when you're at issue 14 or 15 or 22. Yeah, there's going to be emphasis to like, all right, get those. Let's start doing giant size X-Men's, like number 1.
You're not wrong, and not to say that I'm in his defense, so to speak, but House of X, Power of X was peak writing. Like,
it was good, yeah.
It's kind of like Lauryn Hill with the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. You made one of the greatest albums of all time. Where do you go from there?
Right. Right. No, that's real. That's 100% real. And like, I can't blame him. Like I get it. Like, and I'm sure like, yeah, he's in that Marvel crunch. Look, I've been in that Marvel crunch and I was nowhere near as successful as he was. I didn't even get through the front door. You know what I mean? Like, I just trying to get on a book. Like, you know what I mean? So I can imagine how like headache inducing it is to try to get in, trying to show run an entire X-Men line. You know what I mean? And just being kind of like, Sanford Green, let's go do a Doom comic. I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
You know.
So I got this comment from Frustrated. Just he was making the comment to his LCS that trades are going to be the next form of collecting. People are going to want the stories.
There's already people
Are
into
trades?
there's already people that are into that,
Yeah.
like omnibuses.
Hi.
Yep.
It's a big thing.
Oh yeah, I bought a lot of
collect
omnibuses lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but are trades? Are they sold under the FOC? They're not sold under the FOC model, right?
No. Well, it depends on what it is. It
You
depends on what
can
it is.
pre-order trades. You
Yeah.
can pre-order trades at a discount. Yeah.
Marvel put out a there's a line of books called Abrams art books from Abrams Books. There was like a Marvel line, I think Marvel Arts. They did a Alex Ross book that was like Fantastic for Alex Ross book, and you know, we did, or I say we, but Diamond did a Preves exclusive version that is a collector's item because it's like it's got a slipcase and it's a little bit more rare, right? It's a hardcover, and yeah, you're gonna see a lot. You're probably gonna see a lot more of that moving forward. And like you said, omnibuy, whatever you want to call it, are already they go out of print, right? And then they become valuable.
Okay. Gordon's saying his son, who mainly reads him for his manga, will complete one volume of manga in about 20 to 30 minutes. So.
And I get that, but I mean, you know, I don't know if he's making an argument for or against it, but I will say there is also that page turn, right? Like there's also something kind of gratifying and kind of fulfilling about, all right, this book is 100 pages, but like I feel like I turned 100 pages instead of like I turned 15, like, you know what I mean, for $10. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
here's another one. As the price of comics goes up, then so does the expectation that you're going to have you're going to have high quality in what's in there. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think we're shifting towards that again. I feel like first thing I can think of is Hickman, so I'm just going to use that example. Hickman had that Doctor Strange series that was more expensive, but he kind of did the Chris Claremont thing. He packed a lot of story in issue to issue, and it was like a 5-issue series. I can't remember what that book was called. I'm totally blanking on it right now. But it was basically a magic book that had come out like about maybe 2 years ago. And so yeah, I think that's accurate.
About
Like
gods.
Gods, yeah, there you go. Right, yeah. So yeah, I think that's the real thing. Like, and also I think just I look at the book I love right now is Aliens versus Avengers, and right, yeah, and it's got fully painted art, like you know what I mean.
Saad Ribic is a beast.
Yeah, right. So to me, I'm like, all right, $7 fully painted art. I know Jonathan Hickman is a known quantity. Like, I know he's gonna do his damnedest to bring it all home at the end. I'm in. Like, yeah, I'll pay the $7 for this.
Now, I have another question. You may or may not be able to answer this, but this is going back to the topic of speculative purchases and the ratio variance. Okay, so there was a time when I think the market probably didn't know everything about how the ratio variance worked in terms of exactly how many were printed. All you know is there's this ratio that's tied to it, right? How many a company has to buy in order to get one, but it doesn't say anything about how many are actually printed, right? And the reason why I say that is because maybe it was a year and a half, 2 years ago, you started seeing some of these high ratio variants show up in Walmarts in these packs, right?
Yeah.
So a 1,000 variant, I picked up one of those once, right? But how do we know exactly how many of those are produced? We know what it took for a store to be able to get one, but that doesn't say anything about how many were created. So is that like an illusion? Do you think that was an illusion? And how do we end up with so many 1 in 1,000s that are available, a few years after the book actually came out?
So I'm going to assume that if there was a variant that was like a 1 in 1,000, and you started seeing it in Walmart or Target or whatever, it's probably because a lot of people didn't order it. or a lot of people didn't meet that requirement to get to that 1,000 or whatever. And so yeah, they probably printed more either during or maybe even after the fact, because they were like, well, nobody bid, so here we are.
Okay, so either pre-printed with the expectation that they're going to get more orders, or maybe they had that many orders but not enough that with under a single company that got to the 1,000 copy. So you're still sitting there with leftover that's sitting somewhere in a warehouse somewhere. And now a few years later, now this is an opportunity to make some, another way to package something, right? Okay. Ken, we've talked about this, the term ROI, return on investment. And I think it's really important because at the end of the day, comics, like everything else, is a business. And especially when you have a company that's doing its thing, but it gets sold to another company, and now ROI for this new company that's bought it, in most cases, is going to be the first question that comes up, right? Can you talk about that a little bit and how that has an impact on the decisions that are being made at the distributor level and at the comic company level as well?
I'm sorry, my bad. Can you repeat that question again?
ROI, return on investment decisions. When we like to think that companies are creating art and they're trying to create things that the general public, the target market loves, but at the same time, number one, they're trying to get a return on investment, right? And sometimes return on investment is going to drive decisions and thought processes that might be against the best interest of the actual customer. So can you talk about that a little bit, and where you've seen the ROI focus maybe be long term not a good thing, even though short term it looks like it's helping the company out?
I mean, I think variant covers is part of that game, right? I think the let the good, I said earlier, like, oh, issue gets to number 23, and then, but truthfully, like, we've seen a lot of books these days that like get to like 13, and then it's like new number one,
We're seeing a lot more limited series right now too.
A lot, yeah. Well, truthfully, I think that's healthy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because what we used to see, and I mean, I was looking at the solicitations every single month in previews. And like what I would see a lot of times was that there was no indication that this was going to be a mini series, right? And so it's like new number one, there's no promise that it's going to be an ongoing, but there's no indication like, oh, this is going to be issue 4, this is going to be a 4 or 5 issue series, until truthfully the pre-orders come in, right? And then the following month in solicitations, it's like 1 of 5. Right. And so yeah, that's another game that gets played here for sure. It also, I think another issue here is that even with digital comics, comic book sales reporting has never been great. Just never has been. Even during the newsstand days, it was never great. Like, there was so many disparities, which is also another reason for the FOC model. And that continues to today. Like, Diamond used to, up until the pandemic, report numbers, and then they just stopped. And I used to produce videos where we would break down the top 10 selling books of that month. And then one day, I think right around the pandemic, we were told to stop doing that. And it was also around the time that DC left, So I don't know, maybe somebody talked to somebody, I don't know, but like, yeah, it just ceased. And I'm not sure why. And again, like, comic book reporting has never been great. Like, it's been left up to the fans. Like, there was a website, I don't even think he does anymore, called Comic Chronicle, where he would kind of like, he would guesstimate to the best of his ability what these book numbers were doing,
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. So Comicron, that's what I think it was called. They would show every month, the top comics, and I think speculators would use it as a proxy for how many were printed, but I think it was really more based off of what was ordered, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
well,
and I don't know how
more what was, more what was shipped out, to be honest.
Shipped. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is a little, there's a lot of wiggle room there,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay. So
Now,
wish.
one of the things that Diamond was often criticized for, I don't know what the basis of it is, but people have complained about what?
No, he says
Lunar and Penguin do not report sales.
Nope.
One of the things people complain about is, the Diamond did so poorly, which is why, Marvel and DC end up leaving those companies. And there are some people that heard about the Diamond bankruptcy and applauded it, said, "Hey, this is a good thing. This is good for comics." Well, what is your impression as to whether this is good or bad for comics?
So I've been having a reoccurring thought that we as fans, and I think some of this is because of the media we ingest, we as fans tend to make everything about heroes and villains.
Yeah.
And, if anything, I think truthfully the reason I reached out to you guys, I was like, let's talk about this, is because in particular, I think in Black comic spaces, we need to stop doing that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we really do. And it's about media literacy is really important. Understanding what you're watching and why you're watching it. I've been in a vantage point because I've worked in marketing at Diamond for 9 years, and before that I worked in museum marketing. And so I've kind of, at this point, I'm like Neo. I got to be real with you. I kind of feel like I'm in the Matrix sometimes, because I look and I'm like, that's marketing, that's propaganda. That's not even subtle. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm not just talking about comic books. Like, we were joking about wrestling earlier. Did you guys watch the Vince McMahon documentary?
No,
Yes.
No, okay.
I haven't yet.
Vince McMahon, any wrestling fan will tell you, Vince McMahon is a maniac, right? And his morals are questionable at all times. But the guy is a marketing genius. He is, right? And ironically, look, didn't vote for the guy, but Donald Trump clearly understands how to market to people as well, right?
Yes.
And these last few years, and even during the Obama years, I noticed this too. I was like, man, politics is a lot like wrestling.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
And once I started to kind of and if I could just outline this to you guys, I remember watching the debates one year. I forget what year it was, but
it was at the Republican debate specifically in the primaries is when it
possibly. I mean, never mind Hulk Hogan ripping his shirt off recently, like at a Trump rally, right? But like never mind all that, right? I'm just talking about, like, I think this was maybe about like 2010, 2012, something like that. One candidate walks down the aisle, they play their music, audience goes, yeah, another candidate walks down the aisle, they play their music, go, yeah. The candidate goes on stage, they make a few statements, some people boo, some people cheer, right? And some people wear t-shirts of their favorite politicians, you know what I mean? And yeah, I just had this moment where I was like, man, like, everything is marketing, everything is propaganda, and I really want us, to become very much aware of when we're being manipulated. And that's not even me saying, like, I'm more woke than you are. I'm not even saying that, right? That's not even what I'm doing. I'm saying, like, just be media literate. And so I bring that all back to say, I'm looking at the Diamond situation, how people are reacting to things. And I got to be honest with you, man. To me, wanting things to fail is weird. And I've never understood that. I've never understood that attitude. And I really don't like that. That's one of the few things I don't like about being in these comic spaces a lot of time. And here's the thing. The industry is also, there are a lot of fans in the industry as well. People who work in the industry who are also fans, who were fans first. And you see that attitude within the industry as well, right? So this notion of, I mentioned the guy earlier was like, oh, Diamond had it, well, the industry had to come in appealing to 40-year-old guys. Like, first of all, not true. First of all, what do you think Vertigo was? It wasn't to appeal to the comic shop guys who came in every month.
No, it wasn't. Yeah.
You know what I mean? What was the Ultimates when it first came out? That was for the new fans, right? And then it ended up inspiring the MCU, right? So it kind of worked, right? So yeah, this attitude of just like, we've got to pick a side in these fights. And like sometimes that's fun, right? You want to be a Marvel or DC, that's fine, right? As long as it's healthy. Thanks, Joe. What's up, man?
Hey, Joe. What's up?
Yeah. But like, yeah, wanting things to fail is weird. And, feeling the need to pick a side on everything isn't necessary all the time. What you want is you want good stories, you want good art, and you want a good distraction, right? All that other stuff is just noise. And yeah, I just want us to be smarter about that. I don't care, look, I'm gonna be honest with you. Let the white people fight about that shit. Let them fight about that goofy shit. But for us, we have to be media literate. We have to be, because we are under attack a lot.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you point out that this is going to affect the books that we enjoy and support in this space.
Yeah,
a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And there's a lot of publishers that we support that use Diamond, and it's going to hit them hard.
Yeah.
And these are people that are on the come up.
Yeah.
They don't have big companies and staff and stuff like that. Some of these are mom and pop places. This is going to be it could be catastrophic to some of those companies.
Mm-hmm.
You got to think of it like that as well.
Yeah.
So can we like take a double click into that one then? So what are some of the things that come to mind for you in terms of both the impacts, which you touched on them, but also what are some of the things that might need to happen in order to ensure the continued vitality of some of our Black-owned independent companies right now?
I was talking to somebody about this like a few days ago. I think that consolidation is probably good.
Mm-hmm.
I watched that episode where I don't know who the guy's name was, but he attacked. I won't say attacked, but he was hypercritical of the woman Carla who writes Luna, right? I saw the episode you guys did on that, and I'm not saying you can't criticize people's work. I'm not saying that, but that sort of division isn't particularly helpful, right? Mm-hmm. And I think consolidating our efforts, maybe even having our own publishing company, we can go through Penguin Random House, right? But consolidating our efforts and doing that would be extremely helpful right now.
Yeah.
And part of the reason I wanted to do Afro Futures was because I've been in the comics for like 16 years and been on the inside of the industry for 9. And I was like, damn, there's a lot of talent out there that looks like us, looks like me, but they're not being utilized, right? And they're not being utilized for any number of reasons, right? The editor doesn't like you, or the you're not fast enough for a monthly book, or you don't draw a house style, right? So you don't get utilized by Marvel or DC, right? But looking at all that, I'm like, there needs to be a platform for some of these people at least. And it would be nice to see that beyond Afro Features. It would be nice to see, a guy like Joe, right? And the Godhood guys and Greg Elise and all these guys kind of come together at some point. And I mean, they did it with Epiphany Engine, right? Like that did happen with Epiphany Engine. Somebody just name dropped Epiphany Engine for a way to consolidate, right? They did that with Epiphany Engine, which is what I loved about that. But to consolidate our efforts and kind of, again, media literacy, right? It's important to control the narrative. It's so important for us to control our narrative, because as we've seen time and time again, it's cool that Spider-Man's black, right? It's cool that it's cool that Falcon is Captain America, but there's a ceiling for that. There really is a ceiling for that. And we're already seeing them pulling these DEI initiatives out of companies left and right. There is a ceiling, and we have to get used to the idea that we're gonna have to do something for us.
It's funny you should mention the ceiling for that. The times that we live in. And it's cool that Falcon is Captain America until they recast the character and he's got to come back in the MCU, and certain people are going to want their Captain America back.
Yeah,
right. That part.
Sam's going to be out of a job.
Right. No, legit. Right. 100%.
There's no two Batman. There's no two Superman.
Nope.
There's no two Wonder Women. There's
there are two Wonder Woman. They just don't talk about Nubia.
Well, Nubia's Nubia, though.
Right.
Yeah. But they're twins. Diana and Nubia are twins.
Yeah, they retcon that away. Which is good. Temporary representation is a real thing.
Yes.
Yep.
I really like what you said there about now it's time for us to consolidate, and that's a global statement about our people in general. For the next few years, we need to be working together, and all this divisive crap about I'm blacker than thou needs to end with a quickness.
That's just weird. I never understood that.
It's weird.
We're one of the only ones that do that to themselves. You don't hear that going on in other communities, but we are our own worst enemies. We can't get out of our own way. It would be fantastic is if one of us could actually form our own distribution company, as you said, and be our own distributors. That would be a revolution.
But let's call it marketing and distribution, because I think the marketing piece is very important.
It's very important.
It's also choosing where you're going to place it and how you're going to drive awareness. And if you're focused on placing Black-owned IP in front of a target audience, that target audience might be a bit different. Like in this show, we've had people say, "Why aren't we showing up at historically Black universities at their homecomings? Why don't we have books being sold there, or other places where we have expos happening, right? Why can't we do that?" So you're talking about consolidation, and I'm thinking not just about consolidating, companies, but I'm thinking like vertical consolidation. Who's most likely to handle the vertical consolidation into the distribution and marketing space as a platform for all these IP creators to be able to leverage? Like, do you see likely candidates for that?
I mean, I won't name names, but I mean, I think there's probably people who are the most equipped to do this, but I also don't think that they're necessarily I'm not trying to say they're in it for themselves, but I don't think they're already hurt by trying to engage with their own people in some ways, Like I've run into that so many times. Like I'm trying not to say something about anybody that I know, but it's
just make up some fake names.
I'm gonna make up some fake names. But look, there's I go to these cons, I go to these conventions. I actually go to more Black conventions now than when I was going to Diamond. They sent me to San Diego, but on my own of my own volition, I go to the Black conventions because I want to make sure that I'm engaging us, right? That's my goal, right? And I find it interesting that I'll go to these cons, and it's not all of them, but I go to these cons, and you can kind of see the infighting, and the weird beefs, and oh, I don't mess with that person because they did so and so in 2017, or I don't like that person because blah blah, because they just think they're too good or something like that. It's there's just a lot of that, and I don't get me wrong, that is a problem in the nerd space in general. Do not get me wrong. I just talked about this in terms of how people react to the Diamond news, but again, we're too cool for that shit. You know what I mean? That, let the white people do that. We're too cool for that. It's
Marwan says he
exhausting.
needs
And
to,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I say Marwan Williams says he needs to go to a black convention.
Yeah.
Well, there's Atlanta Comic Con in August.
Yeah, that's
What's it
right.
for
Yeah.
you? Come meet us out there.
There's Ekbach in March. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of options.
Black Comics Day is in a few weeks in February.
All right. I
San
think
Diego.
there's comics in color in Boston. Like, there's a lot of options. I'm going to be trying to hit as many as possible once Afro Futures drops. So,
Derek, remind me that we need to establish a page on our website for the Black conventions as a list.
Okay.
We really need that.
Paul, a reminder for you. You need to establish that page.
No, I need to remind you.
No,
you need to
man, I'll
me.
remind both of y'all. Come on now. Okay.
All right. So I think we covered most of the comments and questions here. If I've missed any,
also, I apologize, guys. I get passionate about this stuff, so I just
no. This is good. This is good.
No,
But let me.
really good info.
Apologizing us about being passionate about the effect on Black comics.
But I have two questions for you. Are there any other thoughts or points that you felt like you wanted to try to share with our audience here that you haven't had a chance to share yet on this topic? First of all,
sorry, I was looking for my mouse. My bad. No, I think first of all, what's up, Fax? I see you, buddy. Fax is also really great to talk to about when I was doing the press push for Afro Futures. I mean, I had some notes, but I think we kind of hit all of it. I think it's important to state, like, I'm not shilling for Diamond, but I'm also not here to bury it, because again, I worked with people there. I really got to be my best nerd self while I was there, did we do enough for publishers? Because I hear that conversation a lot. No, we didn't. And truthfully, some of that was my job, but I also was, my hands were tied in some cases, right? Because there's always a bottom line. There's always putting emphasis on this other thing. But at the same time, just want things to succeed. I think that's the big thing. It's just want things to succeed.
Okay.
How many people do you anticipate may lose jobs because of this bankruptcy?
Diamond has had a few waves of layoffs in the last few years. The company, when I was laid off in November, the company had already been the smallest since I had started working there. And so we were actually taking up half the floor space of our offices.
How many employees are you talking about then?
That's kind of tough for me to gauge, just because you have the office, but then you also have the warehouse, and I think they had like about 2 or 3 warehouses, and I know that the one that was on the Canada border, that got closed. And so those people lost their job, and I don't know how many people work in those warehouses at any given time. So yeah, I really couldn't tell you.
So I know my final question I have for you, Troy. Is there anything else you want to share about Afro Futures while you're on here? I know.
Oh, you know what?
If there's a page you want us to pull up or anything else.
Oh,
do you have some Black Comic Lord exclusives to give us?
Get some what? What was that?
Some Black Comic Lord exclusive information you want to give us?
I had a moment here where I was like, I should have given you guys like something to look at.
Is there a page we can share or something else you want us to pull up?
How can I?
You came to our house empty-handed.
I did.
And we do have we have some of the things we shared the last time you were on the show, just to talk through Afro Futures. So
I did think about something I did want to double back to about the Diamond thing, and then we'll jump back to Afro Futures. Sure. I want people to understand actually that what you're doing right now is you're trading a family-owned company, because the Jeppies own Diamond Comic Distributors. You're trading a family-owned company for a multinational conglomerate like Penguin Random House. And so I just want you to think about that. when you go ding dong, the witch is dead. Because
Yep.
what's that bottom line going to look like?
Exactly.
So, I just want to make sure I get that across.
So going from privately owned to publicly traded company, basically, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
So in general, my experience means, more focus on the ROI in general, as opposed to how can we be really good at what we do.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
That's my general experience outside of the comic space.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, I'm going to give you, we're going to do a Black Comic Lords exclusive. And I have been sharing this with people on the book.
Well, Derek's got to play his clip first, but yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Come on.
So I'll give you a couple of, I'll drop a few links in our private chat. How about that?
Yeah, do that.
This is a Black Comic Lords exclusive.
All right.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So, I'm going to drop this here. First of all, okay, what is Afro Futures? So it is, I've been a big fan. I'm a comic book nerd. I like comic books a lot. I mentioned earlier that I think comic books should be, why is Google talking? Sorry, my phone was trying to go off. I think comic books should be crazy. I think comic books should be unlike anything that you can get from movies and television. I think comic books should be bold and in your face, and I think comic books should probably be a little inappropriate for people sometimes. And so a big part of what I've been trying to do here is trying to bring a little bit more edge back to comic books, at least from my perspective. And so, like a big part.
I'll try to make this a little bit bigger. Hold on just a moment. Keep talking. I'm just gonna.
And so a big part of Afro Futures is I wanted to get together a bunch of Black creators that I really felt embodied that in their style and their look, and kind of give them space to explore. And so we've been able to do that. And this past, we did the Kickstarter back in June. I had to push back the release date because we were originally going to be February, but now it's going to looking like it's more going to be like spring. But the stuff I'm seeing is amazing. And I am not saying that because I'm attached to it. I'm saying that because I knew when I approached these people that they were going to knock it out of the park, and they did. And so, just one more. I'm going to do one more.
All right.
Because now I'm excited to show you guys this stuff. Because we're trying to play with the format. We're trying to do bold, unique stuff with the format. We're not trying to, you talked about the 9-panel grid earlier. We're trying to break all that stuff, but at the same time, get back to what I think is the strength of the format itself.
But
and so,
I think just make sure because some people may have never seen the episode we did with you on Afro Futures. Explain what it is.
All right, so I was stalling. Sorry, because I was trying to find stuff. Afro Futures is a comics magazine. It's about 140 pages. It's hosted by a robot DJ named 808, this is her head, and her head is a bunch of panels right here, actually. And so she's sort of like our crypt keeper or our Rod Serling of the book itself, right? And what you have here is a collection of stories that all have some sort of music basis to them, right? And even if it's like, it might be a small aspect of it or it might be a major aspect of it. For example, we're doing a story called Children of the Elements with Quinn McGowan. And that is sort of like Gladiator meets battle rap, right? 808, of course, is the host. We're doing a 50-page story called All Negro Squad, which is a callback to All Negro Comics, which is basically taking this concept of like, okay, look, Batman and Superman got to run for 70, 80 years. What if All Negro Comics #1 got to do the same thing, right?
That's the one story I'm really the most excited about.
Yep. And there's a character in there, the music component of that is a character in there named Streetwise Hercules, who controls sound. Right, but it's a much broader story. That's also going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff we discussed here about media literacy, politics, cult of personality. That's going to factor into that as well. And then there's also the Josephine Baker story in there, which I've been thinking about for years. And there it is. This one is color right now and is about to go to the letterer. Artwork by Jonathan Edwards. This is actually edited by Colleen Douglas, written by me, and Ashley Woods did the colors on it, and she did some amazing watercolor work. When I talked to Jonathan about this, we were trying to settle on a style, and we both immediately said Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, let me. I'm gonna pull up
that's
the
like Bruce
version.
Timm
I'm gonna make this a little bit bigger here. I pulled up the wrong one.
Just for those who may not know, Josephine Baker in real life was a spy during World War II. And
here we go.
This story basically fictionalizes those exploits. Josephine Baker, super spy.
Yep. And my hope is that like I can keep doing more of these in the future, right? The Kickstarter was successful, not as successful as it could be to justify a second issue, but you got to walk before you run. And so the Kickstarter went out there. People are aware of it now. And I hope that when it drops, people will just jump back and be like, whoa, what is this? Because I think it's really cool. I don't think there's anything on the market like it. And it looks beautiful and it's bold and it's just eye candy. And hopefully I think the stories will really make you stand up and pay attention to. And I also have to point out it's 17 plus. And I'll be real with you. One of the reasons I made it 17 plus is because I know myself as a kid, I wanted to see the stuff I wasn't supposed to see, And so that's my goal here is like, okay, it's for the adults, but if Junior picks it up, I learned something, to be honest, because truthfully, the other part of this is like, it's not just about nudity and violence. It's also about adult content and asking hard questions. And that's something I try to do very specifically with the All Negro Comics, All Negro Squad story specifically.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else you want to share about this one? Because there's another one that I haven't seen. I don't think I've seen this set of pictures before, and I think this will get some responses from the chat. But anything else on Josephine Baker?
No, I mean, like, I think Paul said it perfectly. Yeah.
All right, cool. Let me pull this other one up.
That Bruce Timm style art is just fantastic.
All right, so tell us about this one.
So this is Children of the Elements. This was something that we did not talk about for the Kickstarter, but it was already in gestation while the Kickstarter was happening, but I didn't have any artwork or anything to really show for it. This is artist Quinn McGowan. He wanted to do, and this is something he's been wanting to do for years, a gladiator style Coliseum battle, but rap battles, right? And of course we just came off of like, Drake and Kendrick, right? So this is taking that idea and making it even more legendary. And so it's a cool book. It's a cool short story. It's got great artwork by Quinn. And yeah, definitely
style.
It's got a cyberpunk style to it. Yeah, he's created a whole world, and you're going to get a lot. And we were talking about getting a lot of story per page. You're going to get a lot of story in like this little short story that he's made.
Okay, all right. Pull up another one. So let's see. Okay, how about this one?
So this is a piece by Frankie Washington. That is 808, right? You kind of saw that more abstract version of her, but this is kind of like there's little chapter breaks with 808 in the book as well. And so like, yeah, you get a little bit more of her exploits after you get her intro story in the first 17 pages. So she just keeps traveling through the book and she's introducing new stories to you. And she's also just kind of spinning for you as well. So sort of, so.
I like David Watson's question. Is there ever going to be a hardcover version of this?
Like I was talking to Jibba actually about this. He wanted me to do a hardcover version. I said no this time, but if it's received well, yeah, we might do a Kickstarter just to make a hardcover.
I would be down for that. I would definitely. Be down.
It's meant to be coffee table material. Like, it's not meant to go into a long box. I'll be real with you. It's meant to be something that you can put on your table and you want to flip through on occasion, right? You want to find new angles on it and you want to be like, oh, damn, I didn't notice that this time. I really value that as a reader. And so I'm hoping that that'll be the experience people get out of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Did I miss any pictures that you sent, or was that
I sent 4.
4?
I think
Okay.
that was
Yeah.
4.
Let me put up the first one that you. I'll do the larger version, the first one that you sent, so that everybody can see that a little better.
Mhm.
Oops. Okay.
Actually, you know what?
Here we go. It's a little bit easier to see this one now.
And actually, you know what? I will point out that in February, we're going to do we're going to do a free comic preview that's going to be the lead into All Negro Squad.
Okay.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Is that gonna be digital?
That's going to be digital. It's going to be on my feed. It's going to be on the Rexco feed. It's going to be on the Cosmic Lion Productions feed because they've all had a hand in getting this book to backers and whatnot. Matter of fact, I'll give you one little preview.
Okay. Oh, okay. I got it. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Styles Series is asking when this will officially release in Kickstarter orders.
Oh, the goal is spring 2025. I'm thinking mid-spring 2025. I've learned to not to commit fully to a date just yet, but we have a season in mind.
All right, hold on a minute. I gotta download this again.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this just because Paul's excited about this story.
Well, I've always been. Yeah, it's a fantastic book. I'm really looking forward to it. The All Negro Comics, the Ace Harlem, sci-fi version of Ace Harlem, and that Josephine Baker story is what I'm really looking forward to reading.
Cool. Oh, I wrote both of those, so there you go.
All right, here
but
we go.
Those are both stories that I've been thinking about for quite a while. So this is the little preview for the All Negro Squad comic, and this is the prelude story. So to just kind of not to spoil anything, but to give you an idea of what the actual full story is going to be about. It takes place during the inauguration of President Obama. A white militia decides that they are going to try to contaminate the inauguration party and turn the attendees into zombies. It just so happens that several black superheroes, public domain, are attending the party as well. And so what you're getting is kind of a reunion of these characters who have their own separate history that we haven't seen before, but we're going to catch you up to speed on what they've been up to these last several years. This particular character is John Henry from Folklore Legend. And if you are looking closely, you notice that he's fighting with the Nation of Islam and Muhammad Ali is right behind him.
I was about to say that's Muhammad Ali right next to him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We're playing with big toys. Sky's the limit, guys. Sky's the limit.
All right, the Facts Project has another question. Is the push for it still to be a magazine of short stories like Heavy Metal magazine?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like I would be lying if I said that Heavy Metal was not an inspiration for this.
Okay, Styles So Serious is challenging you.
Well, you know what? But see, if I dropped it in February, it wouldn't be as good. So just
now that you said that, Styles So Serious, he's gonna have to push it back to Juneteenth.
But I will. But keep an eye on our feed. Yeah, keep an eye on our feed because you're going to get this free preview comic in February, and that'll be a little teaser for what's to come.
And where can they find your feed?
I am TJA Comics. You can also follow Rexco Comics. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, but I kind of abandoned Twitter because people
it's the devil.
It's the devil. People being dick bags.
Switch over to Blue Sky, y'all. Black Comic Lords has a Blue Sky account, by the way.
There you go.
Please follow us there.
Juneteenth it is. He's in fact putting the pressure on me. And we're also on Threads.
That's summer.
Oh, that's summer. Yeah, that's right. Juneteenth is summer. Also on Threads. And actually, if you want to see more cool stuff from this and some of the promotional stuff we've been doing, we had made some really great videos about Afro Futures. And that's on our Rexco Comics YouTube page as well. So definitely check that out. Some cool trailers. And also for the backers, we're going to be doing a. I mentioned 808. She's a DJ, of course. We're working with DJ Candy Crush, and she's going to do a whole hour-long set. And I already got the set. I'm just waiting to drop it. So that's going to be on our. That's going to be on a video. That'll go straight to the backers.
Now, are you going to have DJ Candy Crush wear an 808 outfit?
She wanted to, but I was like, where are we going to get an 808 outfit?
Come on, man. Let her do her thing. Let her do that. That would be great promotion.
I mean, you know what? Maybe for issue 2, if that happens, maybe we'll do issue 2, and then we'll force her to dress up in a metal mask and see how she likes that.
Yeah. So if somebody's interested in getting this book, but they missed out on the Kickstarter, is there another way that they might be able to get in?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm actually going to send you the link right now.
Okay.
But you can go to rexco-comics.com, and you have 3 covers to choose from. One of them is the I was about to put in the wrong thing. One of them is the All Negro Squad cover, one of them is an 808 cover, and the other one is what I call the Grills cover by artist Bliss, who also does a tribute to Jay Dilla in the magazine as well.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
So anybody in the chat needs that? It's in the chat shared with you.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Much appreciated, guys.
And I would be remiss. Damon asked a really good question. This is going back to our topic on Diamond and the distribution. What materials could we research if we want to learn about the distribution business?
I think trying to think here. Comic Tropes actually did a really good video about the history of distribution that I actually rewatched just to familiarize myself, make sure my talking points are okay. He's on YouTube. There's not a lot of background on comic book distribution. I think that's one of the other interesting things about when people say Diamond is a monopoly. It's like no one was really trying to knock down the door and try to get into comic book distribution, and so it's not something that's particularly well documented everywhere. But you can find a few cool YouTube videos. Definitely the Comic Tropes video, and yeah, just in general, I would say maybe just stay away from some of the speculation of the websites because they don't necessarily know what they're talking about.
Just sort of broadly, when we say comics distribution, what exactly are we talking about? What are the ins and outs of what they do?
Basically, how do comics get from the publisher, like Marvel or DC or whatever, to the comic book store?
Does that include the printing process?
That's part of the printing process as well. Yeah. Like Diamond doesn't do the printing, but Diamond is once it prints out, it goes on a truck and then it goes to the Diamond warehouse, basically.
Okay. I was trying to figure out, a few years ago, Marvel was being criticized, rightfully so, for having this really crappy paper that they were using. And I was curious as to, was that part of their distribution part, or was printing separate from the distribution?
No, that's probably all Ike Perlmutter or something, to be honest.
It's ROI. It's another ROI decisions, right?
Right. Yep.
Got all these little levers you can pull to reduce your investment.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Do we have any other questions in the chat?
I don't think I'm seeing any.
All right. Well, Troy, thank you very much for joining us, man. Thanks for reaching out.
Thank you.
Coming to share your knowledge. That's what we're all about.
We really appreciate you reaching out, for you sharing your knowledge. This has been great.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Happy to have you back anytime as well.
I appreciate
really
it.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Maybe we can celebrate when I get this book out.
Hey, that would be awesome.
Did you say maybe?
You said maybe. No, we're gonna celebrate.
Okay. All right. I'm down for it.
All right.
All right. Come back soon, man.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for reaching out. Thanks for bringing me onto the show. Can I just say Black Comics Lords is a great show. Like, there's a lot of channels out there. You guys have great conversations about comics, which is why I wanted to come on here in the first place. So thanks again.
I appreciate
it. All right.
Peace. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are we doing next? You want to talk about
Well,
reads of the week and what's coming out next week?
Yes,
um,
let's do that. I
Derek's
didn't
like,
pick up anything,
"Man,
so I don't
tired,
know
man.
nothing.
I was tired."
Oh, you're tired. Okay.
sure, Paul.
Oh,
You
you
can
make
pull it up,
sure.
or you want me to?
Give me a second.
All right, all right.
Let me click on this and let me click on that.
While you're doing that, I want to shout out to Stranger Comics. I got several of the books that I ordered a few weeks ago, and I've had really bad luck with packaging and how stuff arrives to me, but there was no chance of that happening with the way that Stranger Comics packaged everything together. So taking
Oh
good care of me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I can attest to that. All the stuff I got is always impeccable and perfect.
Mm-hmm.
it does not look like my computer will allow me. Well, let me try a different browser. I'm trying to get my computer not to crash.
You trying to bring up League of Comic Geeks?
Yeah, but it's not working.
I'll pull it up.
Get an updated MacBook.
Okay.
I'll start with me with the Mac stuff.
Mac.
Yeah, I'm not able to bring it up.
All right.
Well, while y'all, oh, you got it. Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
All right. So if you would make that as big as possible. Let me see what we can talk about here.
Blade.
So Blade 4 came out. I haven't read it. Blade 3 was cool. For those who don't know, Blade, this is post Blood Hunt. He is no longer possessed by the demon Varney, but he wants to atone for the sins that he created under that demon's influence. So he's on a quest to try and take out the big bad, Pontius Van Helsing, who is like this mega vampire who's trying to basically consolidate his own power. He's teamed up with another vampire hunter who seems to have her own agenda. Sort of a friend of an enemy, a friend of my enemy, or my enemy of my enemy is my friend type scenario. And there's a little twist at the end of issue 3, which leads to this issue 4. Blade is somewhat betrayed, and we get to see what happens in this issue. I haven't read this issue yet. I'm just telling you what led up to this issue. There's only 2 covers for this, I think, right? There's this one and
Yeah, there's that one, and there's I guess this will be the cover A.
Yeah. I think that's supposed to be Pontius Van Helsing. I thought it was Sabretooth at first, but
Yeah, that's what I thought it was as well. Okay.
that's Pontius Van
Pontius
Helsing.
Van Sabretooth. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Take this.
Okay, so back to the
Let's see what else is
page.
of note. Oh, click on that Mystique book.
The Mystique book. Which one?
Either
I'll
one.
do this
The one
one.
on the left. Yeah, it's the one on the
Okay.
left. All right, so click on the cover itself. So Mystique, this Mystique series by Marvel is it's interesting. You see Nick Fury on there. This is actually a Nick Fury book. Smart move, Marvel. You knew fanboys weren't going to go out and buy a book called Nick Fury with this dude on the cover. They'd buy a Mystique book. But this is actually a Nick Fury book.
Wow.
To be fair, it's a Nick Fury and Mystique book. Mystique is on a mission. She's trying to track down her wife, Destiny. Nick Fury, I guess captured her, what have you, and put her away. And it's kind of a cat and mouse. It's a high-end spy game. Nick Fury Jr. is interesting. And what people don't realize, he's technically superpowered because his father, Nick Fury, was taking the what's the name of that formula? Scorpio formula. The formula that he took to keep himself young since World War II. Well, that formula not only kept Nick Fury young, it also semi-enhanced his abilities. It made him have a little bit more of an edge in terms of his speed, his strength, his stamina. It also gave him a slight healing factor. So Nick Fury Jr., when he was born, automatically has that in his system. There's some questions as to, in my opinion, does that technically make him a mutant or not? I don't know. But he is technically semi-superpowered. He's a little stronger than the average man. He doesn't get sick that often, and his reflexes are a little bit faster. But on top of all that, he's wearing a shield super suit, which gives him added strength and abilities. And he's trying to hunt down Mystique. Mystique has also been enhanced. She has gotten a power-up that basically allows her to not only emulate other people's guises, but also mutant abilities. So that's kind of interesting because she's more like Mimic than she is simply doing mimicry. So this was actually a pretty dope story. I'm actually I just read this one singular issue. I may end up going back retroactively and getting the other issues before this, and just trying to get the whole story, because this was actually kind of a dope story. I enjoyed this a lot.
Paul, we had a question in the chat about Blade. Let me go back to this tab first of all. And the question,
I believe, yeah, is she a new character? I believe she's a new character. I don't recall ever seeing her before. And
Elena.
I've read a lot of Blade books. I don't recall ever seeing Elena before.
Okay.
Brian Edward Hill is, he's created a lot of new characters in the Blade book. Papa Duke, if you click on that, this title, this book has covers of the week. I don't know anything about this book. It's kind of a mystical thing. To read the solicit, it says Papa Duke is the feared ruler of Blood World and the psychopathic leader of the Knight of the Cadillac gangs. Assisted by his fiendish disciple Eves, Papa Duke positions the beautiful Mother Vega as the ultimate goddess queen of his domain. But first, Papa Duke and Eves must destroy everything Mother Vega cares about, including her lover Cassandra. Now, this cover is fantastic. You can see the other one too. You can scroll to that one. Derek.
There's several covers. Wow. Okay.
Several covers. Look at that. That's the other one. That's the other one I want to talk about. Yeah, that's dope too. My fear is this. I've never heard this title before. The cover is so fantastic. I wonder whether or not the interiors of this book is complete trash.
Have you seen any previews of it?
I have not. That's what scares me.
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, it's been my experience sometimes when you have these companies that invest all this money on these fantastic covers, they tend to lack what's on the interior. Let's scroll down. Let me look at the creators and see if...
And this is from Execution Posse Holdings.
I've never heard of them before.
Never heard of them either.
A lot of red flags. Writer, artist, cover artist is Todd Skull, cover artist Naomi. Yeah, neither one of these cover artists is the interior artist. So that's also a bit of a red flag. We'll see. We'll see. When I pre-ordered this first issue to see what it's like. Hopefully it's good. I'll let you guys know. Let's go back to the main.
I found a little info on Elena Chavez is America Chavez's mother.
Really?
Yeah, it says Elena Chavez story. She was sent to a different universe along with her wife and daughter, America, after America opened an interdimensional portal. So
but
I
that's
don't know.
But that's the same one from the Blade book?
I don't know if it's the same one, though. I'm familiar with that storyline, but I don't think this is the same Elena.
It's the same Elena.
Yeah, I don't think that's the same Elena.
Well, that's what keep pulling up when I say Elena and Blade story, so it's weird.
All right, let's scroll down.
All right.
Down, 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 down. That Star Trek one. Oh, shout out to Advent Comics Southside #4. I don't know if that issue actually came out today, but it was slated to come out today.
Yeah, because that's probably under Diamond, right? So there could be like, delays
exactly.
or anything. Yeah.
I'm not certain if that actually came out. Star Trek. I'm a Star Trek fan. I'm a nerd. I don't care. Judge
Hold
me.
on, let me just do this. Just show a close up of the South Side cover from Advent Comics.
Malone goes to wars. He takes the battle to the junkyard in a brawl for it all. With the entire South Side at war, Malone finally goes one-on-one with Junkyard to make him pay for his crimes. But Junkyard is going to make sure this is Malone's last day breathing. Mature readers due to intense violence and language.
All right, there you have it. Which of these Star Trek covers you want to pull up?
The one on the right.
Far right. Okay. All right.
So let me give you a brief overview. So
it's old
Cisco. This is actually one of the best-selling Star Trek series ever, and I'm happy that that particular distinction is in a series where the lead is Benjamin Sisko, my dude from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Now, he's got a crew and a starship that's a hodgepodge of different people from different Star Trek television shows or movies. He's got Beverly Crusher as his doctor. He's got Data as his kind of, ops officer. Tom Paris from Star Trek Voyager as his helmsman. And then there's some other characters. I think Spock was on the book for a while, just as sort of an ambassador advisor guy. And then there's some new characters they've developed for the show, for the I keep saying the show, for the comic. Basically, Lore, Data's brother, has ascended to basically godhood. And don't ask, it's a long story, but wiped out the universe, wiped out Cisco's universe. He has retreated through the celestial, wormhole that the Bajorans worship. And he's in the wormhole in this with the prophets, what have you. They take him back in time to ancient Bajor, where he becomes his own predecessor as the emissary. I understand that a lot of you are scratching your head saying, what the hell am I talking about? Unless you watch Star Trek Deep Space Nine, you're not going to understand it. But just trust me, it was a cool story if you are a Deep Space Nine fan. The artwork that you see on this cover is pretty much the same type of artwork that you see within the interiors of the book. Kind of a watercolor style painted type of artwork. So it's kind of interesting.
Okay. And this is a shot of some of the other characters that are in the book, right?
Yeah, that's his crew. That's his crew right there.
Okay. All right. So we'll head back.
Scotty is his engineer as well. All right. So this book, Time Waits. Now, someone in the chat had mentioned, you could pick any one of those covers. Someone in the chat had mentioned A Vicious Circle. The comic book that's like $10. It's more like a graphic novel than a comic book. Only 2 or 3 issues have come out, and they only come out once a year. But the art is so incredibly fantastic that people are willing to wait the 1 year for each issue. This story, this art in this book is not the same. It's not of that level of quality. However, the story is somewhat similar. You have this black time traveler guy who works for a dystopian future corporation that is willing to use time travel as a way to get resources for its present, which is our future. And they use whatever ruthless means necessary to go back in time and get whatever they need. So he's sent on a mission to obtain these seeds that they're supposed to take back in time, and he goes rogue and does not give them the seeds. And he stays in our present, starts a family, marries the local sheriff of a small town. And the corporation eventually tracks him down, finds out where he is in time, and sends operatives to hunt him down and get these seeds and kill him and whoever gets in the way. Because in their world, time travel will not affect their present. So if they want to go back and kill Hitler, it would have no effect on their present. They could kill whoever they want in the past. It has no effect. So they're very ruthless and bloody and, quite frankly, reckless when it goes to time travel when they're trying to hunt this guy down. They just murder everybody in town if they're trying to get one guy. And so that's hilarity ensues. It's a cool book. It's a cool book. I enjoyed it. And it's by Distillery Comics, which is a fairly new comic book company owned by creators.
But it's Chip Zdarsky is
Chip Zdarsky's the writer.
Yeah.
And it's got a black lead. So that's kind of cool.
Any other covers you wanna
No, all those covers are dope. I like that white one. I think that's the one I ordered.
Okay, hold on. This one here.
Yeah.
All right.
I think there's like one other one.
Uncanny Xmen.
Uncanny X-Men. Let's talk about this. I wish my computer was working so I could show you some interior shots. There's this black X-Men there. His name is Ransom. This is written by Gail Simone, who's an excellent writer. What I like about her Uncanny X-Men is that it reminds me of old Chris Claremont at his heyday in terms of her writing. She's really like emulating that style, and that's a compliment. I mean, I think about the times where the X-Men were on the run in Australia or places like that, and they're trying to do the good work. They're trying to maintain the fight, even though they don't have that many resources. This is very much that type of thing. Now, this black X-Men, Ransom, he's from, I forget which country. It was either Brazil or Argentina, but he's from South America. His power, as I understand it, is the angrier he gets, the stronger and more resilient he gets, so to speak. And he's a very good fighter. Like he's a boxer. The first time he met Wolverine, he decked Wolverine. So that's like his claim to fame. Like, I knocked out Wolverine, or at least knocked him down. So it's just kind of cool. There is a revelation which I posted on our Facebook page as to who he is related to in the X-Men universe, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. But I'll give you a hint. What other X-Men is from either Brazil or Argentina that he could be related to? That's all I'll say. There was some things that I found a little cringy in this particular issue. There's two. I mean, this is hella black people in this book. There's two black villains, so to speak. One is Corinna. I forget her last name, but she is the one who has turned Grey Malkin, the Westchester X Mansion. She's turned it into a prison for mutants. And there's this scene where one of her white lackey guys says something like, "Hey, Corinna," and she's like, "That's Dr. Hill," or whatever her last name is. "That's Dr. Hill. Thank you very much." Something to that effect. And then it happens a second time with another black character, another black scientist, and this guy calls him by his first name. He's like, "No, that's Mr. Greenblatt," or whatever it is. And it's like, that's weird that you have these two other black characters, and the exact scenario happens with both of them, where someone's calling them by their first name and they're correcting them and saying, "Please refer me by my full name and my title. Dr. Ellis, thank you." So that happened, twice in the book with two different characters. I just seemed odd to me. I might be super sensitive given the times we're living in, but I just thought it was weird. But otherwise, dope book. I enjoyed it. And those are our reads of the week. Now, what I do want to point out is what's coming out next week, because that's kind of important. Derek, that's your cue to go to next week.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted. I was saying I'm pulling it up.
There we go.
All right, here we go.
So we have this DC Power Rise of the Power Company book. If you would click on that first cover for us, please, sir. The Justice League's watchtower looming in the skies is intended to inspire hope and faith in superheroes, but not everyone believes the metahumans act in humanity's best interest. The fringe beliefs that Waller was right, I'm not considered a French, I don't think I'm French, anyway, have grown louder as paramilitary groups take to the streets, take Earth back for the human race. Enter Josiah Power, a meta attorney who's seen enough of the rising hate and sets out to assemble a team not only to protect Black and Brown communities from these new threats, but also to rebuild human faith in heroes. DC Power returns for a third year in a new format, continuing the storyline from Absolute Power, All In, and setting the stage for the return of the Power Company. The new format. I suspect this new format has to do with something that we've been criticizing whenever this DC Power thing comes around every year, which is give these stories and these characters agency within the DC universe. We have said repeatedly, if you go back and watch the last year's Black History Month shows that we did, we appreciate these books, but what they lack is having some meaningful tie to the larger DC universe.
Right.
They did that this year. They actually made the Black, if you watch our last interview with Brandon Thomas about Black Lightning, Josiah Power shows up in that book as sort of a precursor to this book that's coming out. And it's all going to tie together. And there's a book coming out after this called The Power Company Recharged. So they're actually going to make a storyline involving these characters, basically all the most popular Black characters, tie in all together. So this is cool. It sounds like you would almost think that they have people from DC in our space who are listening to us. But that's not possible. Right?
Here's the cover of the Power Company Recharged book.
Yeah. That's being written by Brian Edward Hill. Artwork by Kari Randolph and Aletha Martinez.
Nice.
That cover is by Edwin Gallman. Look at the other covers. That one on the left, the Vixen one, that's by Aletha Martinez, I believe. No, it's Paris Allen. Ryan Benjamin did this one. That's a work of art. And then finally, we got our great Sanford Green cover, which you'll recognize for the thumbnail we did for
this Friday's show.
Oh, did I not mention that? Yes. Tomorrow, on Friday, we're going to be interviewing Brandon Thomas, Charles Stewart III, and Anthony Fowler Jr. to talk about the story that they have in the DC Power book that's called The Company Man. It's an anthology book, and they have the very first story that sets up this Power Company Recharged book that's coming out. There it is. That's our Friday show. You didn't pull up I just sent you the updated thumbnail, but that's all right. You could do the old one, I guess.
We're taking over.
So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, so tune in Friday night for that. Okay. Did you want to go back to anything else you wanted to show out of this? I see Highline Popeye number 4.
Popeye's coming out, yeah. Cody Ziegler is continuing his run on Deadpool. And he also has his book Goobers, so he's got 2 books coming out in 1 week. Star Wars stuff, which none of y'all care about except for me. Storm Life Dream. As many of you know, this is the 50th anniversary of Storm this year. It's her 50th birthday. Marvel's trying to roll out the red carpet. They released this book. I've read this book. I got a preview copy of it. The basic premise is that I don't want to give away the story.
Oh, all right.
But you're going to see different versions of Storm throughout the ages. That's all I will say. We are planning to interview Angelique Roche, who is one of the co-writers of this book. And she is a big major person over at Marvel. She helps with a lot of their major events. And we are going to interview her, I believe, February 5th after this book drops.
So it's going to be a Stormwatch variant of sorts.
It's going to be a Stormwatch special edition episode. And we'll see if we can get both her and Maria Iodelli on the same episode, the current writer of Storm, so that we can have a celebration of the character and talk about this new book. So check us out.
Any covers you want to?
All the covers, man. All the covers are fire. I'm just looking at that. I'm guessing that's Torrin Clark. Yeah, it's Torrin Clark.
Yep.
Remember what I would tell you. If I can look at your art and know who the artist is, you're a goat.
Who's this one?
This is Karen Darbo.
Okay. And this one?
That's it says it, so that's kind of a giveaway. But that's Lucas.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the name on the top.
Lucas Wernick.
Oh, you're a really good reader. You know that.
Lucas Wernick, who is the current artist on Storm, but this one I could tell just by looking at it. That's Olivier Coipel, who's honestly one of my favorite artists of all time.
All right, cool.
Yeah, those are nice covers.
Yeah.
Okay. Question. Any other comics we want to spotlight?
For next week?
Yeah, I need to go back and
just buy the DC Power book, buy the Storm Life Dream book. You should have pre-ordered it. This is kind of late at this point. Oh, yeah, go back down. I want to point out that one cover for West Coast Avengers #3, the one on the right.
Okay.
I don't really care about this book because it's West Coast Avengers. Like, who cares? It's got both Rhodey, James Rhodes, and Tony Stark as Iron Man and War Machine on the same team, which to me sounds a bit redundant. So I really could care less about this book.
It's also interesting that it has. Oh, I guess it shows all the versions of Falcon, Cat Falcon.
Yes. Click on the cover itself to make it a little bigger, if you would, please. So check this out. This is a variant cover because the movie's coming out. They're trying to celebrate the character. It says in this little blurb, "The end of the Falcon, the awesome origin of Sam Wilson's new identity. Look out, world beaters! Here comes Captain America." And you see him. What they should have done in the cover is they actually should have had him in his old green and orange costume, green and yellow costume on the far left. This is original iteration. The end of Falcon, the awesome origin of Sam Wilson's new identity. I've told you guys how I feel about Cap Falcon.
Yep.
Falcon should have been good enough. I understand people have said, well, nobody bought the Falcon book. That's why he's getting all this press being Captain America. Well, you could have upgraded Falcon, right? Instead of simply making him Captain America, in my opinion. Now, I may be in a minority here. I think if they had simply spent some resources on upgrading Falcon and made him cooler, like he was in the Ultimate version, or better, he probably would have stood on his own and would not require a new temporary identity until they hire somebody to replace Chris Evans in the MCU, in which case they'll take the mantle back. But enjoy. The movie's going to be fantastic. I think everyone should go see the movie.
I like the cover, though. I do like the cover.
Yeah. Yeah. I just thought that cover warranted getting looked at because it's basically a recreation of the old Captain America and Falcon covers from back in the day.
Yep. Okay. Quickly, Paul, there are just some comments as you were going through some of these. So I was gonna,
Please.
yeah,
Put them
I'll just
on.
quickly take you through some of those. So let's see.
Pick this
Damon
up. Pick.
Watson. This is going back to the cover, the guy that like Sabretooth. So he's agreeing.
Hey.
The
Oh,
comment about
we gotta talk. We gotta talk about that thing with the thing about the thing. Talk about
okay.
that. It's like
well,
that with Shuri
yeah.
comics, well, good cover but bad on the inside. Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's talking about how we had book covers and then but the inside maybe not as good.
Now I don't know if the interiors of that book are bad. I'm just saying I don't know. I haven't no.
Yeah, you've got your you got your you got to make sure it passes a sniff test. You know, it's
You do.
got your little flags raised. Okay. Trash covers be lit on the interior as well. Yeah, you can have some with good interiors and a bad cover, so you can be the other way around too. This point there. Damon Watson talking about the Mystic Fury book. He added back to his pre-order list. Vandoff really appreciating the idea. I think on the Star Trek, and Deep Space Nine was his favorite as well. So
Deep Space Nine was absolutely the best Star Trek show of all time. I'll fight anybody on that.
Yeah.
Just purchase Mystique based on the recommendation. I'm sucker for anything Children Mystique. Yeah, it's a dope book. I mean, look, I only read the one issue that came out today. I haven't read the previous issues. I mean, I don't know, they could all be trash, but this issue was dope.
Yeah, shout out again to Troy for joining us on the show. So still watching too. World at War Comics, Vicious Circle is so good.
Vicious Circle's fantastic.
Yeah. A few comments about how, or one comment about how the uncanny X-Men book we showed.
That's a very good analysis. I think that's exactly how I described that book to people.
Yeah, I think the comment here that I guess he's saying Sunspot was from Buenos Aires. And then Damon is actually saying that Extraordinary X-Men feels most like New Mutants to him.
Yeah.
Sunspot being Brazilian. DJ Holiday talking about Black Adam leading the Young Justice. He meant Young Justice. They're trying to tell us something. 100 podcast reacting to find out that Brian Edward Hill was on the writing for the Power Company book.
Well, Brian Edward Hill was being busy, man.
Mm-hmm.
And then point about I think it's gonna be Bucky. All signs point to it. I can see the change in the guard after Thunderbolts for Falcon. So, General Falcon America.
General Falcon.
General Falcon. I like that.
Or look, they could combine the two concepts and just make him like Eagle, right? Like, I mean, it just bothers me seeing him like flying around like Captain America. All the other versions of Captain America that we've seen, and there have been a lot of different people who have taken on the mantle of Captain America, just to be clear. But none of them have flown with wings in their own persona before that. So why not just make him, if you're going to make him a Captain America version, make him like Eagle, Black Eagle, whatever you want to call it. But use that to incorporate the America symbolism with a bird. He should be Eagle. But I guess Eagle doesn't sound as cool as Falcon.
Sam
No,
the
it
Eagle.
doesn't.
Sam the
Eagle
Eagle could get
sounds-
copyright. Could get copyright with the Muppets.
Oh, right.
It's a Black Captain America. It's trash. Now Doom saying he's Planet.
All right, here's a question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
Do you think T'Challa VP's current suit is one of his best designs? I think he's talking about the main universe version.
The 616 one? I think it's one of the most unique ones. Pragmatically speaking, it's more basic because it doesn't have any nanotechnology. When we interviewed Eve Ewing, I asked her, does it have vibranium even at least? She said, definitely it's a vibranium suit. So it does have the properties of protecting him, but it's not the nanotechnology where he can use his brain and just, turn it into a tuxedo or something.
It. Yeah.
And it doesn't have that, absorbing energy and then redistributing it out like you got from the MCU. But I'm cool with it. I kind of dig the design, man. It's grown on me. The fact that it looks more warrior-like, the fact that he has his vibranium daggers that he throws out, it's a practical suit. T'Challa's done this before in one of his best runs, the Most Dangerous Man Alive run that he did, where he took over for Daredevil in Hell's Kitchen. He went very basic because he didn't have his powers anymore. He had no heart-shaped herb in his system. And so he got a very practical suit with had like a bulletproof vest and a ski mask and combat boots. And he just was doing a very basic pared down version of himself to test himself, to make sure that he didn't need powers to be the most dangerous man alive, which he did not. So this costume I think he's currently wearing is somewhat of a throwback to that, him getting back to what makes him the most dangerous man alive, which is what Jed McKay described him as by having Captain Marvel say why she wanted him on the team, which I thought was cool.
Some other recommendations, Cornelius: American Falcon, Black Falcon.
I like Black Falcon, but Black Eagle would work. You can't do Black Eagle? Too much black? How about the
The whole eagle thing is just weird. It sounds weird.
Gordon, mine is on its way. I ordered mine a while ago, and it should be here in the next week or two.
Very nice, very nice. Okay, Paul, we have covered both the reads of the week and the reads of next week, and it is now 11:35.
So I gotta go to bed, man. I gotta work in the morning.
Oh, yeah. I guess I gotta go to work too tomorrow.
Yeah.
So catch us on Friday. As we talk about the DC Power Book. It sounds really dope. And I have questions. DC. Let's see what we can come up with.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to shout out to the chat, just really good conversation. We always enjoy you stopping by just to listen to us and what we're bringing to the channel. A lot of work happens behind the scenes just to line things up and to make it happen, but it's always fun when we get on and have a chance to whether it's chat or Paul criticizing my producing,
you have one job,
me flexing on Paul.
One job.
A million jobs. Job. The one job is a million jobs.
Don't forget, Paul. I still have to ship this to you.
Hey, you're my favorite black comic lord, dude.
Yeah. Shout out to Ollie's. All right. So
yeah, I never found that book. That's the omnibus, right?
I wish I knew that because I got this one for Paul and Ollie's just yesterday. So
I appreciate you, bro.
It's like an hour away from here, but if I run across another one,
man, you went on a journey for the book.
It was in my hometown, so
that still sounds like a journey, an hour away.
It's still a journey. Yep.
My man.
Yep. But anyway, as I was saying, we really appreciate you, chat. Thanks for being listeners. If you're new, make sure you like and subscribe. Check out our other videos. Paul has a Friday show, even though lately we've been doing interviews on Fridays. We have a Sunday show that
Rich Smart pissed at me about that, by the way. I got to make it up for him.
Okay.
I think I have a good way to make it up to him too.
Yeah.
Which you guys are gonna appreciate.
Angel Gordon saying he has seen that one in the Ollie's in Orlando.
Which one? I don't know which one because I've been to several.
Gordon,
I went to the one in Daytona.
Now, which Ollie's has that book?
Right.
Because I've searched them and I can't find the damn thing.
Have you found this one in Ollie's yet?
Are you kidding me?
No, I didn't get it from Ollie's. I got it on eBay. I got it on eBay.
See, he's flexing and messing with us.
No, I've been stocking up on the omnibuses lately. So
yeah, omnibuses is kind of I'm thinking I'm getting into omnibuses myself.
Yeah, those are cool. All right. So anything else, Paul? Anything else, Angel?
Nah.
No.
Okay.
Other than make sure you come out the OAX this weekend at the DoubleTree. Tickets are still available.
You got our press passes, Angel?
Phil's got yours.
Okay. Fair
That's
enough.
what he said. I checked.
I haven't seen. I've seen it at the Ali's room. He still hasn't told us where it is. Gordon, you're making stuff up, dude.
He's got to be. I keep checking.
I go to so many of them. It could be one in Melbourne.
Melbourne's not Orlando.
All right. So we good for tonight?
That's it, man.
All right.
We'll report live and direct at OAX and give you guys the lowdown on the original Art Expo, and which I hopefully will get this signed by Dennis Cowan.
Oh, that would be nice.
Ooh, that's right.
That's the goal.
Okay.
So,
now
The
Louisiana
Luke
Kid.
Cage
I missed out on that one.
Ollie's $29.
Nice.
Was that recent, or is that maybe like a year and a half ago? I'm curious. I haven't seen that one in Ollie's recently. I would definitely grab it if I did find it.
Yeah, I need to get the Luke Cage omnibus. That's my birthday hero.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody. I'm out.
All right.
Black Comic Lords. We got you.
Take care.